this is everywhere. This story is everywhere, and it's a complete professional embarrassment to Carlos Watson. And it made a lot of news in the cable news industry because it's like, well, this guy used to work at MSNBC. He's making some waves, and now it turns out his company may or may not be a fraud. He may or may not be a fraud. We don't know. So he decides to go back home to the NBC universe, and he appears on the Today Show, Carlos does, and he appears on CNBC with Andrew Ross Sorkin, who gets into this call between Samir Rao and Goldman Sachs. Samir, of course, with the voice alteration technology to make himself sound like a YouTube executive. And here's how that went on October 4th, 2021.
Your co-founder had a phone call with Goldman Sachs as you were trying to raise money and effectively took them off of a Zoom and then apparently started to impersonate with a fake email address as well, somebody from YouTube. What happened?
I don't know. I wasn't there. But I do know that I got a call from the YouTube folks after it saying something strange had happened. And we figured out what happened. I immediately called back to the folks at Goldman right away, not 4 days later, as I think someone wrote at one point. And look, it's heartbreaking. It was wrong. It's not good. It's not okay.
Okay. So he decided that it was all Samir Rao's fault and it wasn't Carlos Watson at all. Now I'm going to jump ahead because ultimately Carlos Watson and Samir Rao and a third executive were charged by the feds for committing a massive fraud on their investors. And there's news in the case, which is why we are bringing the curious case of Carlos Watson to you today, and I will get to all that in due time. But I want to just flash forward for a moment to the prosecution's elicitation of what happened in that call with the YouTube executive, okay? This is what the prosecutors told the jury actually happened, because you heard there Carlos Watson saying it was Samir, very sad, wasn't me. It's very unfortunate. Here is the source here, the DOJ, and this is in the trial. There was an 8-week trial of Carlos this past summer. From approximately November 2020 through February 2021, Watson and his co-conspirators attempted to induce Goldman Sachs to invest up to $45 million in Ozy by means of material misrepresentations and omissions regarding Ozy's historical and projected financial results, debts, and business relationships. Had the full $45 million investment occurred as intended, $6 million of it would have been paid to Carlos Watson personally. So he was trying to get Goldman to invest $45 million, and $6 million of it was going to go into his back pocket. As part of its due diligence, Goldman Sachs executive asked Watson and Rao to arrange a meeting with someone from YouTube. Watson and his co-conspirators claimed the online video service had paid Ozy nearly $6 million in licensing revenue for the Carlos Watson show. This was another misrepresentation. Ozy was never paid by YouTube for Ozy content. Yet another lie. They looked at Goldman Sachs, these bankers, and said, not only are we going to put you in touch with the YouTube executive, but that we have been paid $6 million by YouTube for licensing our amazing show. YouTube doesn't pay 2 cents to license this amazing show. And trust me, I would take it. If they want to pay me $6 million to license my show, great. Anywho, not what happened in my case or in his. The difference being I never represented to investment bankers that it did in an effort to induce a $45 million investment. Okay. They go on to say, Okay, because Ozy did not, in fact, have any business relationship whatsoever with YouTube, Watson and Rao agreed that Rao would impersonate a media executive at YouTube in communications with Goldman Sachs. On January 28th, 2021, Rao, with Watson's agreement, created a fake email address in the name of the media executive, that's Alex Piper again, which he used to correspond with representatives of Goldman Sachs. On February 2nd, 2021, Rao had a phone call with employees of Goldman Sachs during which he impersonated said media executive from YouTube using a voice alteration application that he downloaded onto his cellular telephone to mask his voice during the call. Pay attention here. During the call, Watson was in the same room as Rao and texted Rao instructions about what to say and what not to say on the call. What to say? Can we rerun Aaron Ross Sorkin? He was sitting there telling him exactly what to say as the fake YouTube executive. And now listen to Carlos Watson's explanation again to Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Your co-founder had a phone call with Goldman Sachs as you were trying to raise money and effectively took them off of a Zoom and then apparently started to impersonate with a fake email address as well, somebody from YouTube. What happened?
I don't know. I wasn't there. But I do know that I got a call from the YouTube folks after it saying something strange had happened. And we figured out what happened. I immediately called back to the folks at Goldman right away, not 4 days later, as I think someone wrote at one point. And look, it's heartbreaking. It was wrong. It's not good. It's not okay.
Every word of that was a lie. You did know. You were there. We figured it out. You did it. There's nothing to figure out. You were part of it. I immediately called back Goldman. It's wrong. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it is wrong. It's not heartbreaking to you. Maybe that you got caught and now your whole fraudulent empire is crumbling. But that's just a taste of how it went. And I must say, though I am not a fan personally of that anchor, he did a very good job in that interview. He, as I mentioned, also went on with Craig Melvin over on the Today Show and said, Ozy is restarting. We're opening back up. Like seconds after they were shut down because all the employees understood that it was a fraud. And here's how he described it. It's a quick soundbite. Listen here.
We're going to open for business. So we're making news today. This is our Lazarus moment, if you will. This is our Tylenol moment. No, actually. And they did try to reopen. That would not last. You will not be surprised to hear. Now, as I mentioned, he was ultimately charged. The feds did step in and they charged him and his two co-conspirators with, here's the charges against Carlos. 1 count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, which is when you get somebody to fraudulently transfer money to you, and aggravated identity theft in connection with a years-long scheme to defraud investors and lenders to Ozy of tens of millions of dollars, tens of millions. They estimated, actually former COO Samir Rao testified at Carlos's trial. He estimated that investors poured between $75 million and $100 million into the company. Those investments wound up worth zero, because there was no there. There were almost no YouTube viewers. There was no groundswell of support behind Carlos Watson's Ozy Media. He was posting fake YouTube numbers where he'd claimed to have, for example, 1 million views on a video, and those videos would have fewer than 100 comments. Now, if you get 1 million views on a video on YouTube, you don't have 100 comments. I went just to look at, for an example, some of ours. One video we posted has 4 million views. It has 177,000 comments. One video has 3.5 million views. It has 100,000 comments. You don't post $1 million or one that gets 1 million views and have under 1,000 comments, a fewer than 100 comments on it. That's a tell. And it appears they were doing some sort of a scheme where like their videos would pop up in the background of some site you were visiting and you wouldn't even know it was running and it would count as a view, but it explains the total lack of engagement by the audience because they're not even watching it. And that's why nobody knew who Carlos Watson was. But he was using this scheme to go to people like Bill Gates and yours truly and say, hey, I have this big YouTube presence. Please come on my show. Then the more of us who said yes, the more he'd use our names to go get other big name guests and so on and so forth. Okay, but that is not all that happened inside of his company. Listen to this. The DOJ, talks about in December
of 2019, this also came up in trial. Watson and his co-conspirators, attempted to induce a bank to lend Ozy money. This is before the YouTube thing. Based on misrepresentations and omissions about Ozy's business, Watson and his co-conspirators sought to secure the loan with anticipated revenues from a second season of an Ozy TV show. However, the contract between Ozy and the show's cable network for the second season of the show was still under negotiation. Courthouse News reports that the channel was the Oprah Winfrey Network, and the show was, quote, Black Women Own the Conversation, in which Watson was the host. The DOJ alleges that to induce the bank to make this loan sooner, Watson directed Ozy's then chief financial officer, the CFO, Tripti Thakur, to send the bank a fake signed contract between Ozy and the cable network, which again, we're assuming is OWN, purporting to be signing him up for the second season. So here again, he's going to a bank trying to get an investment, claiming he had a deal that he did not have. But this CFO, unlike his COO, Sumir, the CFO, Tripti Thakur, refused to do it. He wanted her to come up with a fake signed contract showing he had this deal secured. And she said no. When she said no, Sumir, with Carlos Watson's approval, reading here the allegations by the DOJ, sent the fake contract to the bank, copying Thakur. So in other words, the woman, the CFO said, I'm not doing that shit. And Sumir and Carlos were like, we don't need her. So they drafted up the fake contract and sent it along and had the temerity, the stupidity to CC the CFO who had just said, I'm not doing that. For those of us who have been holding our breath for the past several months, we can finally exhale in the wake of this presidential election, right? Work can finally be done on the major issues that this country's facing, and one of the most significant is our national debt. Look, the fact is our nation's broke, and that debt is a house of cards that cannot be quickly dismantled by anyone. So the strategy remains the same when it comes to your investments. You might want to diversify your savings. Virtually all the experts say that's a good idea. This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold. So many things are out of our control and out of our president's control that it really can be important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group can help you if you would like to convert all or part of an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, which is like a hedging of the bets. And the best news is it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. You just text MK to 989898 and you get your free info kit. And plus right now you will receive a free 1 ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchased silver eagle coin. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text MK to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.